is Tuesday, the 24th of May at 7:30, and we were in the Twinsburg Government Center. I'd like to call the regular council meeting of the city of Twinsburg to order. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Scapidi?
Here.
Mr. Fury?
Here.
Mr. Bellin?
Here.
Mrs. Labby? Here. Mrs. Walker? Present. Mr. Barr?
Here.
Mr. Post?
Here. Okay, we will have the invocation and pledge of allegiance tonight, led by Mr. Fury. If you all rise.
Father, we seek your guidance for the business before us. In planning for the future of the city of Twinsburg, give us vision. Guide us to make decisions that are not self-serving, but for the betterment of our community, so that we can continue to move forward in a positive direction. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next we will have approval of the minutes from the regular council meeting on May 10th. Has everybody had a chance to look at them, and are there any corrections or changes?
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as submitted.
Good. Is there a second?
A second.
Mrs. Walker seconds. Any discussion? Shannon, call the roll.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker? Yes. Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby? Yes. Mr. Scapidi?
Yes. Okay, awards and presentations, I see none. Okay, next we'll move on to audience participation. Again, please remember that per our rules of council, no more than 3 persons will speak on one specific item if other issues are listed on the sheet. The Gumbo project is one project, that's one project. And that's all pertaining to that legislation, that resolution, so please be mindful of that. And all those speaking will have 5 minutes to speak. Shannon, go ahead.
Okay, first, I apologize, I can't read the first name. It looks like Pleta, maybe the last name?
Lita.
Lita?
Glenn.
Glenn?
Glenn Peter.
Sorry.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Council, how you doing? My name is Glenn Pleta. I live in 223 Old Mill Road. Been on that property since I was 16 years old. We've seen a lot of changes on Old Mill Road over the years. Across the street from my house used to be a blank field. Well, Saffron came in. That wasn't too bad. They dressed up the outside. It looked good. Nobody knew they were there. When the lights came on, as the trees grew, nobody knew they were there. This monstrosity that wants to be put in now is outrageous. They want to change our whole way of life on Old Mill Road. Old Mill Road is a bedroom community. I don't know how many people have been up there. Last time I talked, the mayor said he went up there. He might have been up there once. It's a beautiful road. It was even more picturesque when we had trees. They were clear cut. Nobody knew what was going on. They just came in and clear cut all the trees. Not a peep. I raised 3 kids there. One of my kids is hoping to get the house when I depart this motor coil called Earth. They want the house. But I don't know if they're going to want the house with the future plans that are going to happen on Old Mill Road. The 3-lane expansion, I won't be able to get my mail. We're going to have to move our mailboxes because no one's going to be able to cross Old Mill Road with the traffic that's going to take place. We had some pictures taken. This is a property on Old Mill Road that the way it sits now with no trees. The rendition of how it's going to look if the plans go through is the same driveway, almost a football field wide for these trucks to go in. They're claiming that they're going to have all the trucks go out to the right on Old Mill Road up to 91. None of us believe it. Waze, Google Maps, they're going to tell them to go the shortest distance they can to get to 480 or to the Turnpike. This is going to ruin our road. Not just the little section where that monstrosity building is going to be. It's going to ruin the whole road. It's a county road. We got enough traffic on there now coming from Hudson and Stowe that people travel up to 480 to get to Cleveland. We don't believe any of their traffic studies. It's even going to get worse. So we're asking council to really look at what they want done on Old Mill Road. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we have Erica Pacey.
Hello. I have a concern concerning, Sam, I spoke to you 7 days ago and you never called back, like you said you was going to call back. And this is concerning barking dogs next door to me that bark from 6 in the morning to 11 at night, non-stop every day. I don't wish this on anyone. So we need to come up with a solution to help get this resolved. It's just not fair. It doesn't even feel like a suburb on Ridgewood Drive anymore. And calling the police does no good anymore. It's like by the time you call, I guess they're listening on the scanner, they put the dogs up. Not one dog, but 2 dogs bark all day long. And it's just not fair. So I just need some answers. How you going to help resolve this? And Mayor Yates, I talked to you. I know you brought to the attention like how many times I called and all that. But nothing has been resolved. It continues every day. Sure, Erica Pacey, 9822 Ridgewood Drive. Yeah, so I just need this to stop. It's just not fair. And this has been going on for at least 2 years now, almost 2 years. So if you can help me out with that, that'd be greatly appreciated. Because I'm real easy to get along, and my family is too, so. This is the first time we ever been through anything like this. Thank you.
I'd like to respond after everybody speaks.
Okay.
Respond, so I will.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Shannon.
Next, we have Lori Facina.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Lori Facina, 2950 Cannon Road. In 2012, Twinsburg City Council passed Ordinance 97, 2012 without the vote of the people. September 16th, 2014, after a year in the courts, a judge ruled in favor of longtime resident Sally Gaydosh, asserting Ordinance 97, 212 was unlawful. The judge wrote, clearly, the 2012 ordinance violated 7A01, the voter right. September 23rd, 2014, page 4 of regular council meeting minutes, Twinsburg resident Lauren Sengsak says the county ruled in favor of Sally Gaydosh regarding building height and voter rights. On the bottom of that same page, Bill Fury asked if the lawsuit covered building height. Then Law Director Mr. Maestros answered the city would revert back to the past code. Less than 1 month after that court ruling, the city gave an affirmative to a site plan for an industrial building using the overturned Ordinance 97-212. Between that monumental court ruling and today, a total of 7 buildings have been built in one location with that unlawful code. Yes, 8 years and 167 acres later, we have Cornerstone. And now, they want us to ignore the 2014 court ruling again on Old Mill Road. So if you vote tonight on that new site plan, do so with this knowledge. Do so knowing of the ongoing violation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Sean Beckett.
Thank you, Sean Beckett, 8029 McGee Lane.
I'm sorry, repeat the address?
8029 McGee Lane. It's off of Old Mill Road.
Gotcha.
I mentioned this at the last Planning Commission meeting, and this is really what I want to say today and kind of keep it simple. The city has some really good ordinances that that protect neighboring properties to developments. And there's a process involved, and part of that process is a development plan, a site plan, a preservation plan, a tree and vegetation protection plan. Those things are to be submitted and reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission before these developments begin. Well, as we all know here, we're discussing tonight approving this site plan, approving this development. However, the land has been cleared for over a year now. And that's the issue. So before this was reviewed, before a preservation plan was completed, which reviews a lot of really good things, such as how does a development affect neighboring properties? Does it protect home values or neighboring property values? How does it affect traffic? All of these things. How does it protect the natural vegetation, the natural environment there? Before all these things were reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission last week and you this evening, the developer was allowed to come in, completely clear-cut the property to the extent that they clear-cut around a home on all three sides with no notice, no preservation plan, no consideration of the adjacent properties, and nothing that can be seen in other than extremely aggressive development practices that were either willfully neglected by the city or I don't know what. But the city, signed a permit that let them clear without all these other things being in place that are specifically called out in the city ordinances. The preservation plans were not approved by the Planning Commission. The site plan was, as the city planner says, conceptual, meaning at the time they didn't even know if they could have the residential property that they're still trying to close on, or they may have closed by now, but either way, at the time they did not have it, and they cleared around it. There's a lot of damages that were done to the residents around this property due to the city's neglect to follow their own procedures in requiring the preservation plan, the vegetation and tree plan, all the development plans in total before they let the developers start clearing this land. I think the city really needs to think twice before they move this forward, because not following their own ordinances puts them in a bad place, especially when there's a multitude of residents that are going to be damaged in this case. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Sue Clark.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, Law Director. Sue Clark, 9845 Crestwood Drive. Before you tonight is Resolution 57, 2022 for the site plans on Old Mill. I'm asking, before you vote on this tonight, to think about the residents who should have never been put in this position by the city. We have 17 variances at Belmar. Old Mill has water supply and truck traffic issues, and you soon will have upset residents at Richner Court. The residents elected you to have their best interest at heart. You don't work for the mayor or the developer, you work for the people. So I'm asking you to get proactive. We have 3 parcels of land in the city where commercial, industrial, and residential meet. I think you need to ask the new Director of Planning and Community Development to look at these parcels so this doesn't keep happening to the residents. You took an oath. I will support, defend the charter, the ordinances, the resolutions of the city of Twinsburg. These residents are coming before you tonight asking you to do just that. Thank you.
Next, we have
Hold on, Shannon, please. That was 3 on Old Mill. How many more do we have to speak on the Old Mill project?
Some have subject lines filled in and some do not, but there are 8 more people signed up for public participation.
8 more on the Gumbo project?
8 more total. Some have subject lines.
But they all pertain to the Gumbo project.
Some say, yeah, some are traffic, some are long-term residential effects, groundwater, some listed out.
So where the hell do we go?
As I mentioned, no more than 3 people, according to our rules, will speak on a specific item. If there's others listed on the sheet. I see that, we do have quite a few people here tonight. We've already let 3 speak. We'll go 3 more, but make them the speaker that you want to be up there, and we can do 3 more, if council's okay with that. Does council have an issue with that? Okay, so 3 more speakers on the Gumbo project.
May we decide who speaks then?
Pardon me?
May we decide? who-
Yeah, absolutely,
who's to speak?
absolutely.
Don't worry.
Yes.
I got this. I got this.
Can I ask what the definition of an item is?
I got this one, John.
Actually, it's speak on a specific issue. If
Okay.
I said item, I misspoke. It's an issue. And, yeah, and
My
the
issue is
and
property
the
value
resolution
that this is
is
going to destroy.
the one on the Gumbo project,
But it's
okay?
different. It's-
It doesn't
it's
say
my
project,
property
it
value.
says issue.
Pardon me?
It says issue, you use the word issue, not project. So there are very,
Yes, but it's one resolution. You're speaking to one resolution that we have on this agenda tonight that speaks to what you want to speak on. Right. 3 more. Whoever wants to speak on Gumbo, that's fine.
I'm up.
Dawn Sikowski, 2445 Old Mill Road, Hudson, City of Twinsburg. I know we've spoken about this before, but I don't think what I presented was clear for everyone to understand. I'd like to talk about the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting from March 2nd, 1992. During this meeting, they were deciding whether or not the first build on this large plot of land, which is in between Route 91 and our homes, would be approved. I'm going to tell you the important points that came up during the meeting that are relevant to our concern. Mr. Gilkey, the developer, stated that the entrance on Old Mill would be for car traffic only, and the entrance on Darrow Road was for truck traffic. Mr. Hill, the city consultant, stated that a major concern was how to service the large portion of property that is currently undeveloped east of the proposed building, and it's imperative that the Planning Commission see how this property would ultimately be developed. This land they're talking about is the site that Project Gumbo is set to be on. Mrs. Savrillo, who was on the Planning Committee, stated that she would like a condition that if and when the back property was developed, the road off of Darrow Road would be brought up to city specs for a dedicated street. A summary of the points that were discussed were no truck traffic allowed on Old Mill Road, widening of Route 91 to city standards, and Case Parkway South, I'm sure we all know where that is, to be included on the plans showing it aligns with their entrance. The motion on the table stated, number 1, give it an additional lane and widening on Darrow Road. Number 2, entrance to line up opposite Case Parkway South, and 10 feet to be dedicated along Old Mill. Was number 3. Number 4, any future development of the back property will necessitate the construction of a dedicated road to city standards. Those 4 pieces of the motion passed unanimously. Any, the word any is a synonym for all, each and every single one. It does not mean some, many, a few, or certain ones. Future, any future development. Future is a synonym for eventual, forthcoming, or down the road. In other words, what number 4 says is that every single one of the developments down the road will necessitate the road for truck traffic on this land per this motion passed in 1992. This is my 4th time bringing it up. Twice before you now, twice before Planning Commission. I'm stunned we're still having this conversation. It's in black and white. If someone down the line forgot or didn't do something right or think that the words any future development of the property is inclusive to certain situations is just absurd and wrong. Those are the answers I've been given when I've asked about the 1992 approved motion. They're all different answers and everyone's just going along with it. Someone says, nope, that's not what it says. It is what it says. You guys have a hard job. You have a lot on your plate. You have a lot to listen to. We've been here. We're here. We would rather be home with our families just like you guys would. We want to be here as much as you guys want us here. Really? Right? this is big, and you guys have everything in your hands to determine what happens to us, them.
Read it.
This is what Mark wanted to say, and I'm going to say it real fast. First of all, there's no way a planning commission should have ever approved what they did last week. It's been brought to our attention that one of the council members revealed that the only reason planning commission approved the site plan was because of a lawsuit that would be filed if it was not approved. Is this blackmail? It was obvious that certain planning commission members did not want to approve it. They asked for no truck traffic, a smaller building, a building further from homes, and in the end, the design came back bigger with traffic and was approved. Something's not right here. Mr. Barr has numerous times said the words, "be neighborly." Is this really neighborly? The Campbell-McNiff family? Sure don't think so. They were forced from their home. Is that neighborly? What's the reason for the emergency tonight? Are supplies for a build running out? No. We're guessing it's just to push it through as quick as possible to avoid legal action and to be sure the developer makes his money. All the permits are not in place. The concerns of the residents have not been met. How is this an emergency to pass it? Second, we were all urged to send our questions and concerns to all of you by Planning Commission. We did this in early May. Got very little response. We've asked about the light and sound pollution, more buffers, traffic moved to Summit Commerce Park, nothing. A few more trees were added to the site plan. What a joke. A few more trees? Come on. And our big one is, what's plan B? What's the plan when our water's gone or contaminated or unsafe? Either the city or the developer has to give us an answer on how one or both of you is going to resolve it. It would be absolutely sickening for all the residents to have to spend their hard-earned money on bringing city water and sewer to our homes. We have a water supply. If someone comes in and takes that from us, why would we have to pay the price? We've already invested in our wells and septic. Those aren't free. We own them. They work. What is plan B? What is plan B if this goes wrong? We've been telling everyone, this is not going to work. We live here. We've asked this in person, we get blank stares. We've asked it in emails. Again, it's silence. We need an answer. This is tragic and unfair. And this needs to be tabled until we have definitive answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Two more. We have two more that would like to speak. Lynn, please.
Thank you, sir. To be correct and complete, and I remember the rules of engagement now, Lynn Clark, 2485 Old Mill Road. And these comments will apply to all of the developments that are either presently planned or will be foreseeable in the near future based on the zoning from State Route 91 and Old Mill East and all the way up to Mosswood. So any place we disturb the soil, any place we build something, it will have the same kind of potential impact. So I applaud the fact the city is making an effort to keep our taxes low. I think I just read an article, we're like third lowest in the county, by encouraging development of industrial and commercial properties here in our city. Now, this is perfectly good, but it's got to be done in a sensible, environmentally responsible manner so that people are not harmed, the environment is not harmed. When I first became a licensed professional engineer back in 1978, I took an oath to hold paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public. And regardless who my paycheck was signed by. And I believe everybody in the city takes a similar oath. least that part about protect the safety, health, and welfare of the public. Now, for the professional engineers, our code of ethics goes a little step further. And it says, hey, you will only practice in your area of competency. You will issue public statements in an objective and truthful manner, and you avoid deceptive acts. Now, I add those things because I want to avoid the illusion that just because I happen to live on Old Mill Road, I am tilting my comments. These are my best professional judgment, and I've done a lot of work in groundwater hydrology over the course of my career. Now, as we go forward, I can't envision a situation that's any worse than having a water supply that's threatened. And I have seen too many areas of our country and of the world where people don't have the luxury of having clean, ample water supplies that we enjoy. Here in Ohio in particular, but obviously I'm just a little biased towards what's happening on Old Mill Road because I need that water, my neighbors need that water. So, to that end, Dr. Jay Lair and I conducted an assessment of this general area. And the purpose of doing that assessment was to determine the relative risk associated to the groundwater quality and quantity in this developmental area. Now, I don't expect too many people here to know who Dr. Lair is. He got the first PhD in hydrogeology back in 1962 and has been practicing ever since. I went to visit him a couple weeks ago. He's out splitting wood at 85. Pretty amazing guy. Now, in addition to that, he has consulted internationally for no less than the UN. And his accolades go on. Everybody here should have gotten the documents that I sent you. So we use a tool that was developed on behalf of US EPA, and it's referred to as DRASTIC. It's recognized internationally. A lot of different organizations use it. And it has several different criteria in there to assess potential risk associated with development on properties. And those are things like, what's the type of soil? How thick is the soil over the aquifer? What's the aquifer medium itself? And how deep is the groundwater? A lot of factors like that. Now, one of the things that we've got that makes this site particularly difficult to fully understand is it has sandstone that has been fractured. When the glaciers retreated, they had such massive weight, they fractured the bedrock. Now, this is of a similar formation that we could actually see. You can see the fractures horizontal and vertical. Now, the important thing is, studying groundwater, you need to understand the direction of flow and the rate of flow. So, as we went through this evaluation, am I okay on time, Shannon?
Your time is
Please,
actually up.
Squire.
Okay, I'll wrap this
Wrap it
up.
up, please, okay?
Yes, sir. So, big thing is, Dr. Lair and I conclude this site is very high risk, and we strongly recommend a thorough hydrogeologic investigation be conducted. In the report, we include recommendations for what some of those parameters would be, and again, continue to say this is far too important to rush through this without doing scientific studies, collect real data, and not have opinions. Thank you for extending my time. I'm going to submit the same report I gave to you into the record to Shannon. She asked for an email tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Thank you. Is there one more that wants to speak on Gumbo?
Matthew Eppley, 2668 Old Mill Road, Twinsburg Township, Ohio. To the honorable council members here this evening, other city officials, and Mr. Yates, I am deeply concerned that Project Gumbo on Old Mill Road is moving rapidly down the tracks without all the city residents, the township residents, and the neighborhood of Old Mill Road's concerns being met. As they say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I hope all of you were able to read the Planning Commission meeting minutes from March 2nd, 1992, as your Planning Commission colleagues saw many of these potential problems arising and tried to prevent these issues. I applaud Mr. Hill, Mr. Gilkey, and Mr. Lessman for seeing this property being this exact problem and trying to prevent these problems. If you have not reviewed those minutes, I highly suggest you do so. We come here tonight to do what we've been doing all along and do the neighborly thing. The neighborly courtesy that was not used by the developers, the neighborly thing that was suggested from the beginning by Mr. Barr, the courtesy that was not extended to us by the developers in this situation. I added many new words to my lexicon that were previously not in my scope during this process. Things like what hydrology and hydrogeology are, and the fact that ordinances are the laws of municipalities. I understand that the developers are meeting the objective zoning rules set forth for the type of property the land is currently zoned as, albeit without a point of demarcation between the property surrounding it on three sides, not being the same type of zoning. Something that Mr. Yates said at the planning meeting in March, my first appearance at the planning meeting, was that we must do what is legal. So I'm asking is this council take in all the facts and data we've been asking for from the beginning, most responses we have yet to receive, and just apply the subjective rules and the laws as the oath of your position compels you to do. I, by trade, am a truck driver. I hold my Class A CDL with double, triple, and tanker endorsements. I have 15 years of experience, and I've driven a sleeper cab truck with 53-foot refrigerated trailers to some very rural and very urban I-95, middle of New York City, Manhattan type of locations as part of my profession. I am not an environmental expert by any means, but I'm fully aware and have seen firsthand all of the ground, water, noise, air, traffic, and nuisance pollution that these type of facilities create. Between the general traffic noise, dropping and hooking of trailers, backup alarms, air horns, regular horns, air brake chambers, throttling and decompressing, auxiliary power units, the lighting pollution created by turning in and out of the facility the neighboring addresses, the noise pollution from the engine brake slowing down to enter the driveway, the weight of the trucks damaging the road and road replacement costs, the type of friendly companionship that these facilities encourage. I can go on and on, however my speaking time is limited. If a truck driver is doing what they are legally required to do by testing all the mechanical equipment of the truck every time they start, what does this do to our neighborhood? I just cannot understand how in good conscience why you would allow this on a residential street. Let me repeat that, a residential street. If approved, this would be the only commercially addressed building on Old Mill Road. I want to make sure all of you will fully understand and acknowledge that fact. We are here to ask for your help to protect our road, both city and township residents, to protect the value of our homes with regards to the valuable resource of water, good, clean, healthy drinking water, to protect and preserve the residential rural nature of Old Mill Road, and not to allow 80,000 pounds of truck to pollute our neighborhood and have to stop for the school buses, increase traffic flow. We are asking you to minimize the impact. Mr. Yates, I wish you all the best in your new endeavor, but as you move on, please remember that there is at least one person in this room and one person outside holding a sign that have lived on Old Mill Road their entire lives. They address their addresses changed only by 2 digits and choose to stay here. They wish to stay here. And leave a positive legacy behind to what Old Mill Road is, what Mr. Hill, Mr. Gilkey, and Mr. Lessman tried to prevent. Please follow your laws and ordinances, all of them. Keep Old Mill. With the interlacing of the township and the city, if this scenario was reversed, if the township had land off of Glenwood or Post or Liberty that maybe fell through the cracks over time and was about to be developed into a building like the ones at the old Chrysler plant area, say being next built to Abrams Farms or Ethan's Greens or next to your beloved golf course, the amount of passion, energy, and fervor that this council will be compelled to use to prevent that from happening can only be imagined. What is Plan B, as Don asked earlier? I have been to almost every planning and council meeting regarding this project, and the one thing I noticed is that other than the developer, no one has spoken up in the support of this building, other than the guy who's getting paid to make this happen. Not one resident. No one. None of your constituents or residents or voters have supported this plan. Please remember that when we vote on this topic this evening. Thank you very much, and keep Old Mill.
Steve Hummel, 2500 Old Mill Road.
What's your subject?
Permits, properties, permits, Well, for Campbell's. So we're looking at the Campbell property, which I don't know if it's been acquired or not, but it's a property of interest on Old Mill Road. It's a property. It could be part of Gumbo, maybe not, but the one thing I want to bring up about the Campbell property is this. If Campbell's wanted to build something on that and fill that property, they would need an Army Corps fill permit for that property. That property. If they wanted to drop them trees down, they would have to wait till November 15th to drop them trees down because of the endangered bat species that are talked about. It's in the proximity of Liberty Park. So the Campbell property, boy, I hate to think if the Campbells want to build a pie baking operation there, because they ain't going to do it until November. So I hope they're not in a hurry to build their pie baking operation over there. So I don't know what's happening with the Campbell property, but it's going to need proper permitting if anybody decides to do anything on the Campbell property. So that's number one. As far as that goes, any trees, according to any permits with the Army Corps at that property or any other property, any trees over 3 inches in diameter, they'll have to wait to drop them trees until November 15th. Any property, not just the Campbell property. That's a special condition of the most current Army Corps fill permits around. So that's the one thing I'm wondering about with the Army Corps fill permit. Diversion of waters, just generally speaking about diversion of waters. Typically, when you divert water from, I think Chet here and Linda have a property on Moosewood Lane. And where the discharge point is of a certain pond, right now, about 1/8 of an acre drains to that point. Okay. Now, typically, they don't want you to state law. There's Ohio drainage law runs contrary to diverting water from one watershed to another. There's been a ruling with Wadsworth that says such. The Summit County Stormwater Manual, Section 8.3, says diverting water from one watershed to another is generally prohibited. In a rare instance, it may be considered, but documentation to proof of benefit. And that proof of benefit doesn't mean that Campbell's get to build a pie baking operation on their entire property. That's not proof of benefit why they should be able to divert all the water to Chet's place. There's no benefit there for Chet. There's no benefit when only 1/8 of an acre went to Chet's property, and now 40-some acres potentially would if Campbell's and everybody else on Old Mill decides to drain towards Chet. And the thing is, typically when you start draining and you don't have a proper receiving stream, which according to a lot of these fill permits, all these receiving streams have been filled on these sites at Campbell's and wherever have you. At that point, they have no receiving stream and they're discharging to a rill at the edge of their property, and it's going to erode and drop down a steep grade because the pipe's at the edge of the property line. They can't go any further. So my question is, you know, according to certain ordinances, I think 118709F, you would have to obtain easement for stormwater. So say Campbell's wanted to divert their pie baking operation over to Chet's, and they had to go through the city to do that. Did the city say, yeah, we'll let you do it, but we realize that Chet's property is going to become a problem with erosion, and we need to talk to Chet? And I'm saying, those are some of these ordinances in this book that's well thought out that I don't think have been addressed at the pie baking operation over there at Campbell and McNiff's, amongst others, but I'll let it go at that because I don't, you know, Campbell's is only 1 acre and the rest of it's about 45 or 50.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have anything other than the Gumbo project that they'd like to speak on? Mr. Mendenhall.
I just understand that there has been some confusion that has grown on 114909. That's your height regulations. And I was very concerned to hear from Lori Fashina that a number of buildings have been built in excess of those height regulations. I represented Sally Gaydosh starting in 2012, and we got an ordinance reversed. Ordinance 97-2012 was reversed in 2014 by Judge Jones, and she absolutely set the limit, based on the 1989 code. So the ordinance that was passed in 2012 it has been stricken by the judge from your zoning regulations, yet in looking at it tonight with your law director, I see that that ordinance is still in place as if there was not a court ruling against it. So that does need to be taken from the record. And I'm sorry, I probably didn't introduce myself properly. Warner Mendenhall, Akron, Ohio. I've had a number of issues here in the city of Twinsburg that I've assisted Ms. Gaydosh on, and tonight I'm here on behalf of Lynn Clark as well. The other thing that I have been on both sides of this microphone. Some of you know I served in the Akron City Council. I've been on boards and commissions and in public forums, and I'm a litigator on the First Amendment. And I just want you guys to be aware that when you limit public participation on an issue, there are serious First Amendment issues that come up. So, with all due respect, Mr. Scafidi, to say that only 3 people can talk about an issue may be a problem. There is a fairly recent, and we're getting, I know there are all kinds of issues that are bubbling up. I mean, we see the critical race theory issue coming up before school boards, and we've seen a lot of conflict around these public meetings. But, and we have a recent decision out of the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, that's the federal courts that handle First Amendment violations, called Eisen versus Madison Local School District. So these types of cases are coming up. There can certainly be limitations on speech, time, place, and manner. But if you have a public meeting that is just general, kind of like your caucus one, you really cannot have limit on what the subject is at that level. This is a more limited forum, I grant that, but even when you have the more limited forum, as long as people are discussing issues that are concerning those limited issues, such as the agenda tonight, then pretty much each individual who shows up asking to speak, I believe, has a right to speak. So I don't know, it's just something I'd like you to be aware of. I litigate these issues. I've sat on both sides of it. I understand the tensions that grow, and I understand how, what it is like from your side and from my side. So anyway, I really appreciate the attention and the courtesy tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for your opinion. Mike, throw.
Good evening, council. This thing's upside down or backwards or something. Mike Troll, 9930 Forest Lake Drive. Not speaking on Gumbo, not speaking on 5722. I'm speaking on the emergency clause on 5722. Why? Why? This was just put through planning last Monday.
We're removing it.
Well, now you just totally stole my thunder. Okay. Well, I still want to hammer my point for people at home watching.
You've got 4 minutes.
I got 4.5 minutes, but regard. Thank you. There's absolutely no reason to push this through on any emergency notice. Who do you work for? Were you elected by the people? Were you elected by Mr. Gumbo? Yeah, we need to take care of our people. You have all these people here that want to speak. They have concerns. These people are educated. They have facts. And you want to cram this thing through in 1 hour? Well, now it's going to be 6 weeks, 3 meetings, whatever it is. But, what is an emergency? What's the first thing you say when you push through your emergency clause? I make a motion to suspend the rules and declare an emergency, right? I'm making a motion before all of council here. Suspend the rules allow these people to talk. Allow them to be heard by their representatives. I mean, they come in here once every how often? You hadn't seen them before this issue. Mr. Gumbo got to get up here and talk for a half hour about his project and this and that, and every meeting, they got 4 minutes in planning, they get 5 minutes here, and now we get shut down to 3 people. And Mr. Mendenhall, love this guy, completely stole my thunder on the First Amendment thing. I mean, it basically comes down to, do you want to hear from your constituents or not? Or would you rather just say, nope, 3 people, that's it, 5 minutes, you're done. I heard something before we started, and it's council rules, and I will respect your rules as you put them together, that no more than 3 people on one subject, which is why I'm speaking exclusively to the now recalled emergency. And the 3-person rule and then the time and all of that. Let us make decisions that are not self-serving and for the betterment of our community. We just heard that in the invocation. These decisions to cut people off at 5 minutes, and you have been gracious with my time when I run over, and I do understand you can't have people up here rambling for 25 minutes because I'm probably getting close to my time. But to cut and say only 3 people per subject, that started back when I was fighting for the old school, because we came in here and we had 6, 8, 10 people lined up. And we made our point, and we stopped demolition, and that got crammed through on a ridiculous nature because they wore down the Architectural Review Board. We're going to have meeting after meeting after meeting. So who is making the rules? Who are these rules benefiting? Are they benefiting the people and the community, or are they benefiting themselves? And you guys are here to represent these people behind me. And I'm on their bandwagon. I am their biggest fan right now. And I'm so proud of how much these people have learned and how much work they have done and how they are fighting for what is right. This development is wrong. The city dropped the ball way back when. It's nobody's fault here that the ball got dropped and that road didn't get put through on K Street. But now they're paying the price for this. And that road needs to get put through. That, to me, should be the #1 issue. And that'll keep the truck traffic off of Old Mill Road. The zoning never should have been done, like Ms. Clark said. There's 2 or 3 more properties that have residential right next to industrial. You guys need to take care of that before it becomes the same issue. So with that, I don't know if I'm out of time or not. I probably am. But thank you very much. I appreciate your time. And I appreciate your revocation of the emergency clause.
Any other comments on anything other than Gumbo? Mrs. Gaydash.
I didn't sign up, but I do want to, I'm Sally Gaydosh, 9250 Liberty Road, Twinsburg. I do want to thank Warner for coming and representing us. Pardon me?
The mic down.
Oh,
We can
I'm
hear
sorry.
you. There you go.
Okay. I do want to thank Warner for coming and representing us. And I want to tell you that Warner has represented us 9 times. Judge Williams, Judge Batchelder, Judge Carr, Judge Slaby, Judge Spicer, Judge Jones. Everyone supported our cause in this city. Warner Mendenhall made that happen. Let's hope he can make something happen tonight. But we have got to, Sam, I wish you all the luck in the world because you have a terrific job on your hands. A terrific job. We're here to help you. I'll support you with whatever I can, but you have to turn this city around. It cannot go on like this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments beside the Gumbo? Finally. Okay. Since audience participation is over, we're moving on to council committee communication committee report.
Just one
Oh,
thing.
Mayor, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just one comment and one request. So out of respect of everyone here tonight, and we do appreciate the work that you guys have put into this, and we also appreciate the work that City Hall has put into this also. This has not been an easy path for anyone. We do understand that. In light of Mr. Mendenhall being here tonight and bringing up a couple of issues, I would just ask that we do an executive session so that we can discuss a couple of topics regarding, imminent litigation prior to any decision made on the Gumbo project.
Tonight?
Tonight.
I don't do that.
So just, I wouldn't suggest this is just your council meeting, but prior to the legislation, we go into executive.
Okay. I would like to make one comment, and that would be to Derek Pacey, as I mentioned that I would. You're right, it was 7 days ago that we talked, and we haven't talked since, but we have talked before, a few times at least. I spoke to your mom as well. The last conversation I had with you, you said you did not want the police to be called because it does no good. So I turned to our law director, and I turned to our police chief, which is who I have to go to. And I spoke with them. They met and spoke, and they talked together. What came out of that meeting, which was just recently, within the last day or so, which I was getting back to you next, was that your neighbor has been cited several times. And they've been cited, they've come down, and they've paid the penalty for that citation, okay? And maybe Mr. Vazana might want to say a little bit more about that, but, I don't, the next step, and that's what I'm asking, what's our next step? Because it seems that any citation or penalty that they pay is not changing anything with them. And there have been several calls to City Hall, to the police department, from you as well as from your neighbor. So it's a thing that's going on there. I hate to call it, a neighbor issue, but it is, and you're looking to us to fix that, and we're trying to fix that, but we have to fix that within the realm of the law that we have to do it with. So if there's nothing else, if I said it, if I said it wrong, let me know. If that's what was discussed and that's where we're at, then I appreciate that as well.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I can chime in a little bit. As you said, I did meet with the chief of police about the matter, and I reviewed the file on it. There have been at least, I think there were 2 incidences where first-degree misdemeanor charges were levied against your neighbor. The police chief and myself are committed to keeping track of the situation, and please, I don't know who said it, but somebody said that, you're not going to reach out to the police, you're not going to reach out to the chief. Please keep us informed of any future developments. And I will note there are also civil remedies that you can look into, but obviously the city can't provide guidance on that.
Oh, I have been calling, and the fines continue, and there's been other cases worse than working that happened that has been taken care of. We had a case twice where the dogs came in our yard and tried to go right through our patio door to get in the house. That's been taken care of twice, and they had to go to court for that. So why they keep coming over now in the yard and trying to get in the house, I don't know.
I don't either. That sounds like a difficult situation, and I do feel for you on that front. But from a law enforcement standpoint, we only have the charges that we have on the books, and the city has been pursuing those when you have brought facts to us that align with that. And I would just encourage you to keep reaching out to the city, and we will keep doing everything we can within our enforcement authority to do our best to rectify that situation for you.
And if there's any further,
We might need like a stronger law about that. It should just be something, just a stronger law, just a standard for that. Anybody.
okay.
So if I may, because I think this is important, that the first-degree misdemeanor, which is what the city has classified, at least the 2 charges that I did see that were brought against your neighbor, that would be the highest classification that we can make those types of offenses. We can't, as a municipality, turn that into a felony. So we do have first-degree misdemeanors for the audience identification. Those are punishable by a fine of up to $1,000 and 6 months in jail. Those are what the city has been charging in these instances when you brought forth your complaints. At that, we cannot convert dog-based offenses to felonies based on our authorities as a local municipality.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Vazana. Thank you, Ms. Casey. Okay, that's it. Next, we will move on to communication committee reports. Mrs. Levy.
Thank you, Sam. I missed the first districting meeting, which took place while I was on vacation. During that meeting, Mr. Vazana explained the expectations to the committee members and they were given a map to contemplate the new districts. The next meeting will take place on 5/31 at 6 o'clock in Chambers. I also missed the Jedi Committee meeting. The next full Jedi Committee meeting will be 6/13, 6 o'clock also in Chambers. The next Parks and Rec Commission meeting would be 6/23 at 6:30. The Twins Days Commission meeting will be 6/1 at 6:30. There's also a request from Allison Tanazzi from the Chamber for donations to Food Bank. You can drop off anything for Food Bank, any donations at 9733 Ravenna Suite G, and that's behind Master Pizza from Monday through Friday, 9 to 3 p.m. That's all I have.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Bellin.
Thank you, good evening. I attended this evening's Finance Committee meeting prior to council. We had a presentation about a new report that we are going to be moving forward called the PAFR. It stands for the Popular Annual Financial Report. It will provide the residents with an easier way to digest some of our financial information. So in addition to the 170 pages that we put out every year, this is a much more concise, easier to digest version of that. I think, we talked about it amongst the Finance Committee as well as the rest of council. It is consistent with our transparency efforts, things like the Ohio checkbook and these kind of things. And so I think, we can look forward to that. Most likely, I'll let Sarah speak to this, most likely next calendar year. We also got a major project updates. Things like we're doing a study about the fitness center roof. We're doing studies around potential service garages and traffic signal boxes around town and those kind of things. These are all significant projects that require significant financial forethought. And so I thank Mrs. Buccigas for that presentation as well. The next Finance Committee meeting will be on Tuesday, June 28th at 6 p.m. here in Council Chambers. The Golf Advisory Board met on May 17th. I would like to thank Mayor Yates for filling in as I had a conflict that evening. The new members were sworn in and the chair and vice chair were selected. Brian Menard gave us a golf operations report and Jim Roberts gave us a golf course update. This year we had over $600,000 of pre-booked play at the golf course. So that was even before the season started, which is outstanding. We had multiple evening leagues added this year. Many of our leagues that are expanded. We actually have a waiting list for our leagues as well. As you can imagine, with the weather this year, we have had a slow start. I think our rounds are down about 600 versus last year, but we anticipate that as the weather gets better, we will kind of catch up. We are predicting more rounds and revenue this year, obviously weather depending. We completed our winter maintenance. We removed several dead trees around the course. Like all businesses in the country right now, we are dealing with supply chain and fuel costs and those kind of things, and so we're doing our best to kind of keep those costs down. Staffing is an issue as well, but again, we are doing our best to fill all of our part-time work and seasonal work. One super positive thing that came out, Golf Pass ranked Glen Eagles Golf Course the number 8 golf course of all municipal courses in Ohio, which is really awesome and just kind of speaks to all the great work that's being done up there. The next Golf Advisory Board meeting will be held on July 19th at 6:30 p.m. here in Council Chambers. Next meeting of the Public Works Committee will be on Tuesday, June 14th at 6 p.m. here in Chambers. And the next meeting of the Safety Committee will be on Tuesday, July 12th, also here in Chambers. Nothing further this evening. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mrs. Walker.
Good evening, everyone. I did attend the finance meeting today. It was very good, very interesting and knowledgeable. On May 17th, I attended Stone Creek homeowners meeting. It was at Twin Haven, and they wanted me to give them a brief description of what was going on in the city of Twinsburg. So I went to the mayor's report that he had given out a couple days earlier and extracted information from that. And so now they're going to have another meeting, and they're going to invite Mayor Yates, I told them, I don't know how long you're going to be here, but they want you to come, and a representative in Ward 2, which is me, so we could discuss further what's going on in the city of Twinsburg. The mayor and I, and the mayor's going to say something about it, we attended the Twinsburg School Board meeting, and thanks to Karen Labby, she's like my right hand. If I need anything, I just call her, and she went out and bought a corsage from all of council, and we pinned it on Mr. Aho, because he's leaving, and I just gave a brief description of what his last name meant, and he said he didn't know anything about it. I'm thinking, I didn't know anything about it either. I just looked it up and to see what that means, and it means friendly greeting, how are you, hope you're doing well, just like that smile that he has on his face. So that's all I have to report. Thank you, Sam.
Great, thank you. Next, I'll give my report, and under my report, I'd like to start it out with a message of condolence. On May 7th, Mr. William or Bill LaFavor passed away. He was our law director here in Twinsburg from July 6th of 1982 through November of 1987. And he was very well known throughout this area, and just on behalf of myself, our city council, the administration, and the mayor, I would like to extend our condolences to the LaFavor family. You have our thoughts, and our prayers will be with you. And it's unfortunate, but he died. I believe he was 78 years old. I'm not sure if he was ill or not, but yeah, his passing will be felt by everybody, so I'd like to pass that along. The other announcement I want to make is, and I would like to at this time, today, before we got here, I know the Texas shooting in that school today. There were 14 children that were killed and one teacher, and possibly more. The number may have grown since I got here.
19.
It's 19 now, so 19 children?
18 plus the teacher.
18 children plus the teacher. So at this time, I would like to have a moment of silence for those folks down there in Texas, if we could, please. Okay, thank you very much. Our thoughts and prayers go out to all of those and their family down in Texas tonight. One announcement I'd like to make, Ravenna Road, which has been a problem for some time now between Glenwood and East Idlewood. That project will be starting on June 6th, and I wanted to make that announcement. It will probably run for a few months. I know that's a main thoroughfare through the city, and that's the last link of it that needs to be rebuilt and repaired. So I would like to ask everybody's patience during that project. It seems like we all want the road fixed, but it's hard to have people be inconvenienced. And so I'm asking for patience as we navigate through that project through this summer. And again, it'll be starting on June 6th. Finally, under my report, the Board of Zoning Appeals, which is what I sit on, they'll be meeting tomorrow night on the 25th at 6:30 right here in the council chambers. And that's the end of my report. Thank you. Mr. Barr.
Good evening. Thank you. Since our last gathering, I attended the Planning Commission meeting. I'll keep that report brief since we all know what happened at the last Planning Commission meeting. And we have two ordinances in front of us tonight regarding, resolutions regarding the outcome of the Planning Commission. The first is 57, which is approving the Project Gumbo site plan that was passed by Planning Commission last week. The second is Resolution 58, and that was for a building addition and site plan approval at Summit Sound and Security off of 91. That passed planning as well. Mr. Bellin touched on the next public safety meeting. I believe the next Planning Commission meeting is tentatively scheduled for June 6th at 7 p.m. That concludes my report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barr. Mr. Fury.
Thank you and good evening. The ARB met on May 19th. There were 4 cases. Case 220525 was a porch addition for a Ravenna Road. home, and it passed 4-0. There was also a detached garage for 220526 on Chamberlain Road. It also passed 4-0. Moldrite is doing an expansion to their business. That was also approved 4-0. And the signage for the City Hall is going to replace the signage in the front with an electric sign. And that had to go through the ARB, and it also passed unanimously. The next ARB meeting is on 6/2 at 6 p.m. I will also be attending the Jedi meeting on the 13th and the CIC meeting on the 9th in City Hall at 5 o'clock. And that's all I have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, Mr. Post.
I have a short report, thank you. I did attend the finance meeting. Mr. Bell did an excellent job of summarizing that. He also mentioned that the Public Works meeting is on June 14th. He failed to mention that's my birthday, and you're all invited, and I'll bring a cake. So join us. Oh, Costco will be big. You're all welcome. And just a reminder that on June 25th, there is paper shredding for the community. That is from 9 to 12 at the Service Department. That is from the Environmental Committee. And that is my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mayor, we'll move on to your report.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. A couple things that I was able to attend. On May 11th, I attended a signing day at CVCC. So our students that attend CVCC and get educated and trained in a particular trade, this was the first year they did that, and I just want to say that it was probably one of the most impactful high school graduating events that I've ever been to. They did it like an athletic signing day. They had the kids come up, they had the employer come up and bring, shirts and hats and stand behind them while they signed a document saying they were going to go full-time work for those particular employers. And they brought up numerous kids in different areas that had been trained there, and I just want to say that it was just a fantastic program, and it was just a really special day for those kids. Those that don't choose that typical college path, it really highlighted all the work that they've done over the last 4 years to be in this position to go work in the area that they're trained to work in. So I just want to thank them for inviting me to that. It was a wonderful day. I did go to the State of the Schools. A lot of teachers in different positions were highlighted because of the challenges the school district has had, and I must say I don't have any children still in the district, but very much well connected to the school. That they've done a really good job through all the challenges over the last couple of years, and that was really showcased during the State of the Schools. As Ms. Walker mentioned, we did attend the school board meeting last week to present a proclamation to Marty Aho, who had spent 20 years as the treasurer and CFO of the school district. So we want to wish him well in his retirement. On Friday, we had an event here at Josh's McCarrian's Memorial, and it was a blessing of the badges. And it was the first time we'd done that, and it was at the end of Police Week, so it had significance recognizing all the officers that have lost their lives in 2021, as well as we had Father Michael from St. Cosmos come down and do a blessing of the badges for our safety forces, both police and fire. And it was a well-attended event, just a special event, something different that hasn't been done before. So I want to thank the officers and firefighters that got involved in arranging that. I do want to recognize a couple of members of our CERT team that were heading to an event in Dayton on a bus, and an individual went into cardiac arrest on that bus. And we had Paul Bell, Nick Jajenko, and Phil Weiss that went into immediate action and started performing CPR on this individual while the bus immediately tried to locate an exit to get off at, and was then met by EMS, but basically saved this guy's life. And so I just want to recognize them. I know council, we've talked about formally doing something for these individuals, but it just goes to show you, I mean, these are volunteers around the city, so when you see those green vests floating around at different events, they're all very well trained, and they all do that on their own time. And so, we're thankful to have such a great group of individuals that are willing to be part of our CERT program here in the city. So I just wanted to recognize them. And then lastly, we have the Memorial Day Parade that's going to happen again this year. It starts at 10:30 at the high school. So if you're going to participate in the parade, we do walk all the way down to the square, and then there's a Memorial Day service that is organized by the VSW. So I encourage everyone to attend both the parade and the memorial service, but if you got to choose one, show up at the square. That's the most important one. So that is all I have this evening. I believe we have one report. Sarah?
Good evening, Council. I just have the income tax revenues to report for the month of May. We collected $2.79 million compared to last year. We collected $2.58. So we are up just over 8%, which is good for the closeout of tax season. And we'll continue to keep an eye on things as we wait for the impact of the work from home to hit. Year to date, we're at $10.7 million, whereas last year we were at $9.97. So we are up just under 7.5% compared to last year. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Fury.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion that we amend our agenda for an executive session.
I'll second.
Discussion. Call the roll, Shannon.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
We will go to executive session. We'll be back shortly, and we'll tell everybody what we discussed. Or the subject matter was. And then we'll continue. Okay, the council meeting will resume, and we will move on to legislation. First we have Ordinance 56-2022.
An ordinance amending the policy for handling of contracts for capital improvement projects in the excess of $25,000.
Okay, that's on its second reading. Next, we have Resolution 57-2022.
A resolution confirming the Planning Commission's approval of the final site plan for Project Gumbo, date stamped received May 10th, 2022. We're removing the emergency.
At this time, are you done?
Are we removing the emergency?
Hold on, let me finish. At this time, based on some information that was presented tonight and given to the City Council and the administration, I would like to make a motion right at this time to motion for a continuance of Resolution 57-2022. Is there a second? Mr. Fury seconds. Discussion, Council. Call the roll, Shannon.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. That continuance motion on Resolution 57-2022 passes 7-0. Next, we have Resolution 58-2022.
A resolution confirming the Planning Commission's approval of the final site plan for Summit Sound, date stamped received March 2nd, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 58-2022 as an emergency. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bellin seconds. Okay. Any discussion? Call the roll, Shannon, please.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Okay, Resolution 58-2022 passes 7-0 as an emergency. Ordinance 59-2022.
An ordinance authorizing the purchase of vehicles and equipment for use by the Service Department as previously approved through the capital improvement budget and declaring an emergency.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and place Ordinance 59-2022 on its third and final reading and declare it an emergency. May I have a second?
I second.
Mrs. Walker seconds. The reason for the emergency is these vehicles have to be ordered, and in order to try to get it in before, it probably will not be in by the end of this year, but hopefully by the beginning of next year, so we can still use it during the winter season. Any other discussion on the emergency? Call the roll, Shannon.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Okay, the emergency passes. Now I'd like to make a motion that we adopt, which one was it, 58?
59.
Oh, 59? Okay, that we adopt 59-2022 as an emergency. Is there a second? Mr. Fury seconds. Discussion.
It just should be noted that this is replacing a 1994 truck. Just want to mention again how we try and stretch this equipment out as long as possible, and it's for the purchase of a 2023 Freightliner chassis vehicle for the service department. Total cost, I believe, is a little over $205,000, fully equipped.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barr. Any other discussion? Shannon, call the roll.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes?
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 59, 2022 passes 7-0. Resolution 60, 2022.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a mutual aid agreement with Summit County for the provisions of services by the county sheriff's major crime scene investigation unit.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 60, 2022. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes?
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Post?
Yes. Okay, Resolution 60, 2022 passes 7-0. Next, we will move on to unfinished business, new business, and miscellaneous. I'll go first here. I'd like to make a motion that City Council does not oppose the new liquor permit for Han High Properties Incorporated located at 8941 Wilcox Drive, and authorize the clerk to submit this form to the Ohio Division of Liquor Control. As mentioned earlier, this is the Burgers to Beer in the former Damon property off of 82. So is there a second?
I will second.
You. Mrs. Levy seconds. Discussion. Shannon, call the roll.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes?
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Okay, and that motion passes 7-0. Next, we'll move on to other communications and committee reports. How about Mr. Post?
I would like to add some miscellaneous. I would like to add a motion. Amy Moore asked us to add a motion for the 18th Green project. She would like to make a motion to add to the 2022 bid list for Phase 2 in the Ethan's Green development for a sewer outfall lining project. So I'd like to make a motion to add that to the bid list for the sewer outfall lining project that will take place later in this year.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Discussion.
This particular project will continue a lining project that we started last year that runs to basically to the main pond that a lot of that section off of Timothy and Hawkins comes into. So there was some areas that we detected, so this is potential grant money available for that, so we want to push that project up.
Okay. That it? No discussion.
I'll do the motion.
All right. And you need to call the
I
roll?
need to call the roll.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Thank you. Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes?
Okay. Mr. Post, go ahead. Anything else?
Yeah, we're just yes. I just want to say that, while we were sitting up here earlier, I heard a couple of comments from the crowd that said, and I actually heard people say they don't care. And, I sit here and I hear that, and, I think it's easy when you sit on one side of the table to not know what we're doing on the other side of the table as well. I mean, many people in this audience have sat on this side of the table, and I think we need to know that we don't take things lightly, and to say we don't care is just wrong. And I know the first time I heard of the issue, I was in planning. It was the first time I ever heard of it. I'm Ward 4. It's not even in my area. And I reached out that night to Mark and I said, hey, I want to come see that for land. And I was out there, I think, that week or the next week to take a look at it. And I thought the property was beautiful. And I encouraged other council people. I said, you got to go out there and see this. It's beautiful land. And there is a lot of conversation that happens on this side of the table. So when I hear a comment that they don't care, That's not true at all. And I think, it's our job to listen to both sides, and hear both sides of it, to hear what the community has to say about an issue, and to hear what I call the experts, which is our legal team, our engineers, the EPA, all that. There are two sides to every story, and it's our job to listen to both those sides. But to say we don't care, which I've heard multiple times over multiple meetings, it's just not true. I'm speaking for myself, but seeing all the work that all these people up here have done, I'm going to speak for multiple people and say we do care. Sometimes, sometimes it's just tough to hear that. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
No? Okay, thank you.
Can I say something?
No, you cannot. Please hold that comment. Mr. Barr?
Nothing.
Nothing. Mrs. Letty?
I have a question about Rock the Park and VIP bartending. Do we do that as a group, or do we do it individually?
Yeah, the volunteers do it. Okay. All done? Okay. Mr. Bellin?
Nothing further, thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Walker?
Nothing further, thank you.
Mr. Fury?
I'd like to thank the veterans in the audience and in our community, and look forward to seeing many of them at the ceremony on Monday. Lieutenant Donato is sponsoring again the McTarian Open. That will be July 15th at Glen Eagles, 9:30 shotgun start. If you'd like to sponsor a hole, participate in the McTarian Scholarship Fund, you can contact Lieutenant Brian Donato at 216-224-4308. And Mrs. Labby mentioned earlier this evening, our Community Hunger Center is reaching out for help. When I go to the grocery store, it's probably 30 or 40% higher than it was a year ago, and that's hitting our Community Hunger Center too. What they used to be able to buy for $250 would support a family of 4 for 14 days. Now it's more like $400 to do that. So if you have canned goods, if you have food available, or if you're interested in donating, our Community Hunger Center in Twinsburg, they do good work, and they've been doing good work for a long time. And that's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Eads?
Nothing further this evening.
Mr. Vazano?
Nothing further this evening. Thank you.
Ms. Buccigross?
Nothing further.
Okay. Mrs. Collins?
Nothing further.
Okay. Seeing that there is nothing further, all the members are here. At this time, I would like to make a motion that we adjourn this meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Discussion. Shannon, call the roll.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Okay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming.